Welcome to Golic and Smetty.
I'm Mike Golic.
I'm Jessica Smetana.
Welcome to another edition of Golic and Smetty. I'm Mike Golic Sr. She is Jess Smetana, and we have finished week 2 in the NFL. It is in the books. A lot of college, great games to get to a little bit later in this show. But Jess, week 2 is over, and we finished with 2 games on Monday Night Football, just trying to quench the thirst of the football fan out there. New Orleans at Carolina, Cleveland at Pittsburgh, and we got 2 crap games. I mean, oh my God, at least it's football. I guess that's glass half full that we can say that. And we might as well start with, because there's one good thing in the other game that we can talk about as Notre Dame grads we'll get to. But in the Cleveland-Pittsburgh game, wow. And I know Pittsburgh is your team. Defense, stud-like, complete reason they won. Offense, waiting to take that next step with Kenny Pickett in his second year, having George Pickens as a receiver. They hooked up on one really nice play. Other than that, Jess, this offense is awful.
Mike, it's so bad. It was so bad that the fans at the stadium were chanting, "Fire Matt Canada," loudly, audibly during this game. They were just an abomination, truly. You said at least it's football. I'm not sure if that's true. I'm not sure if what the offense was doing was football. I saw a statistic that I last night as I was going to bed, this is like first Monday Night Football game I've stayed up to finish the end of, by the way. So pat myself on the back for that. The Steelers they were trailing going into the fourth quarter. -7 yards, total yards in the fourth quarter, won the game, according to True Sport Media. That's the first time that's happened this century. Like, their offense was so bad, negative yardage. They won the game because of the defense, because of Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt, bail out the offense yet again. But it was hard to watch. It was bad. Kenny Pickett looked bad. The offensive play calling was bad. The third down, when you have like a 3rd and 1.5 to ice the game, you just need a first down here. And they call this like weird quarterback keeper. It made no sense. They had a 2-point conversion that they missed on an awful play call. Najee Harris fumbled it on the goal line. Mike, It was more of the same, because this has been the story of Pittsburgh's offense now for years. They cannot get a good offensive coordinator in here and play complementary football with a defense that is winning them games. It's so pathetic.
It's amazing to hear the chants usually are for players, or the booing of players. They're chanting to fire Matt Canada. I mean, now I covered him in college when he was, the big hotshot offensive coordinator. And one thing I'll say about him, how to put it nicely, he's very sure of himself and his abilities as an offensive coordinator.
I'm not sure about them.
Well, I think a lot of people are thinking that right now. His first pro gigs, because he was a college guy, including being the interim head coach at Maryland for a bit. And then his first NFL gig was the Steelers in 20 as the quarterback coach, and now been a couple of years as the offensive coordinator. I have their game next week when I call for Westwood One, when they take on the Raiders. The Raiders don't have the defense Pittsburgh has, so let's see if Pittsburgh can do a little more, or the Raiders don't have the defense, I should say, that the Browns have. So let's see if Pittsburgh can do a little more offensively. But right now, this is supposed to be the next step for a Kenny Pickett to show he's your quarterback, to say, now we have a quarterback on a rookie contract. We can start building around him. But the issue, may be more up in the booth than on the field at this point.
I think it's probably a little bit of both. Like, I think, I know it's hard to change coordinators when you have a rookie quarterback. And last year would have been the time that I said, make the exception, like bring some new people in here. Like Kenny Pickett was a 1st-round pick. Najee Harris was a 1st-round pick. You're investing in your offense in draft capital, but like you're not doing anything with them. Well, you're wasting all this incredible talent on the defense. TJ Watt last night broke the franchise sack record, passing James Harrison, did it in fewer games. And you have all these studs on defense. You have Minkah Fitzpatrick, who got hurt last night. There are also, this game, so many injuries. We'll talk about the Browns in a second, and Nick Chubb, because that was awful to see. But they've got Cam Hayward. Like, they have all these studs on defense, Mike. And it has just been years. This is years now of pain and misery of watching the Steelers offense not finish in the top of the league in any offensive metric. It is just bad.
And so let's give the defense their due. First play of the game, kind of a miscommunication on a route with 2 receivers by one another. The receiver kind of stops for the ball and has to reach on just a quick out, and it goes off his hands, bounces off another player. Next thing you know, Alex Highsmith is running into the end zone, defensive touchdown. Then with Pittsburgh down 22-19, about 7 minutes left in the game, Alex Highsmith gets a clean, great rush on the left tackle and strip sack for Deshaun Watson. TJ Watt scoops it and scores. So now they're up 26-22 and hang on for the win in this one. So this is absolutely a defensive-led team. And looking at the Cleveland side of it, this is the 20th Pittsburgh home regular season win over Cleveland. 20th straight home regular season win for Pittsburgh over Cleveland. This is the 27th season for the Cleveland Browns not starting 2-0. So they have a lot of trouble getting out of the gates. And for an offense, Jess, as we lead into this horrific injury, this was an offense that's been led by Nick Chubb, right? They've been trying to find that quarterback, and then they get Deshaun Watson, but he's got to sit most of the year, plays at the end, looks rusty, looks bad. So Kevin Stefanski has got to decide, okay, let's make this a Deshaun Watson offense going into this year. We have Nick Chubb, one of the best running backs in the league. If we don't have to rely on him all the time, but all of a sudden it's running through Deshaun and we still have Nick Chubb, just think how strong it's going to make this offense. Well, 2 games in, you still can't count on Deshaun Watson. He doesn't look like the top 5 quarterback he was in Houston. Now we'll give it more time and see, but they lost the guy, the glue, the absolute glue to that offense, and one of the best running backs in the league, to a horrifically gruesome injury that immediately Troy Aikman and Joe Buck said, we can't show this again. And of course, it comes out on Twitter. People get views of it. And it was just the worst timing of somebody planting their leg right as a defender is hitting. In this case, it was Minkah Fitzpatrick. No dirty hit, nothing like that. But right as he's going down low, right when the leg is planting, and just knee is going ways it shouldn't go. And he basically blew everything out of it. He did this in 2015 when he was at Georgia as well, and has come back to be one of the great running backs in the league. For this to happen now, Jess, if Deshaun doesn't get back to form, and Ford, who came in for him, did have over 100 yards. But that he was that offense. He was the fulcrum of that offense. So now even more is going to be heaped on Deshaun Watson's shoulders.
So you did not think it was a dirty hit by Fitzpatrick? Because I know you tend to defend defenders as a former defensive guy, but I did see, like, it's a low tackle, the players, but it's Nick Chubb. Like, if you tackle him high, he's probably not going to go down. But I was curious what you thought about that.
No, listen, Nick Chubb's a big back, and he's going to run over people. And you got to take him out low, because you certainly can't put your head down and hit him in the head. Now, he's not a defenseless player, he's a running back, but you still, if you're a defender, can't lead with the crown. So a lot of times you'll go low, and you'll hear receivers all the time. They would rather DBs go high on them and hit him in the head than go low and hit him in the knee. But because of the rules in today's game of staying away from the head, this is more receiver and defenseless. They're going to go low. But no, I don't blame Minkah Fitzpatrick for tackling. If he tried to meet him with a chest tackle or a shoulder tackle, he's going to get run through by Nick Chubb. So I get it. No malicious intent, no dirty play intended at all, I don't think, in this one. But now the bottom line is he is done, at least for this year. What are they going to do? Cam Akers for the Rams is, again, for whatever reason, not in good standing with Sean McVay. Do they trade for him? Do they trade for Jonathan Taylor, maybe, who is at odds in Indianapolis and on the PUP list, missing time there? Do they bring back Kareem Hunt? Remember, it was Kareem Hunt in the backfield with Nick Chubb. Kareem Hunt's a free agent. Do they bring him back? That would be the cheapest way. You wouldn't have to trade and give up any assets for it. But they're going to have to do something now, just because it's another team that's going to rely on their defense, when the hope was the offense was going to be better than it was. But as of right now, they haven't shown it. Yeah.
And like, Deshaun Watson looked bad. He didn't play well. He was inaccurate. He got sacked 6 times. He fumbled. He threw a pick, like you said at the beginning of the game. And it's fair to question if, we've already talked about the morality of his signing in detail for the last year, but he sat out for a year in Houston, missed 13 games last year because of the sexual misconduct suspension from the NFL. Now he's back. This is the first time he's like starting a season now in a couple years, and he's looked really bad. And the Browns gave up a lot to get this guy, knowing all of the things that they knew about the accusations against him. They gave him $230 million guaranteed dollars to play for him. And I can't imagine right now that they're thinking it was worth it. And I'm sure they only care about it in terms of how he's playing football and nothing else. But yeah, it was the first time I've seen him play a full game in prime time, and he didn't look good. The Browns offense looked a lot worse after Chubb went out. Like you said, Jerome Ford still ended up with 106 yards on 16 carries. The Steelers' run defense has been an issue for a couple of years, so that also didn't surprise me. But really ugly game. The Panthers Saints game was not much better, but we were blessed with 2 Monday Night Football doubleheader game. I don't know why. It was like some experiment ESPN and ABC were running to see if they could program 2 games back to back like this. Now that they have this new NFL deal, so far, Mike, not so good. Just give me one good game. I don't need 2 bad games.
Yeah, and they did this a while ago. Me and Greeny called a couple of Monday night games. We would call the later game, which would be a West Coast game. It was like would start at like 10 Eastern.
Like 10 o'clock. Yeah.
This was only an hour apart. And in that game, New Orleans wins 20-17. New Orleans, of the 2 games last night, 3 really good to great defenses, right? Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and New Orleans with defenses. Carolina was down 20-9 they scored with about a minute to go, got the 2-point conversion to make it 20-17, make it look closer, didn't get the onside kick, and that was the end of the game. In this one, the one surprising thing to me, Jess, is Carolina's got a ways to go, right? They have their young quarterback in Bryce Young, not a lot of great weapons around them. The defense is okay. So they're in for a long year, but we knew that. For New Orleans, by the way, a division that the winner last year of that division, Tampa Bay, had a losing record. 3 of the NFC South teams are 2-0.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought that, especially with Tampa Bay? But Tampa Bay, Atlanta, and New Orleans all 2-0. I would have thought the New Orleans offense, you have Carr. You don't have Kamara yet. He's still under suspension. Michael Thomas is back. Olave is turning out to be an excellent pickup for them as well. Great receiver. That offense, I thought, would be a little more high-flying. Their defense is going to be leaned on there. I think the biggest thing out of this one, Jess, is the fact that there were 20 points. This shouldn't read New Orleans 20-17 over Carolina. It should read Notre Dame 20-17 over Carolina. Tony Jones Jr. in for Jamal Williams, who got hurt, scored 2 touchdowns. So that's 12 points, right? Blake Grupe kicked a couple of field goals and the extra points on the touchdown, Tony Jones' touchdowns. So he had 8 points. So Blake Grupe had 8 points. And Tony Jones had 12 points. So Notre Dame scored 20 points in this game. How about
Mike, that is I love this anecdote about Blake Grupe getting stopped by security because he's such like a small guy. They were like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "I'm the kicker." What do you mean? That was great. But yeah, the first half of this game, Mike, if I could read to you the play-by-play: punt, field goal, punt, field goal, punt, 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 interception, fumble, punt, end of half. That was what we were working with last night.
Wow. So I guess
like a Big Ten game.
I guess, do we say how they say any publicity is good publicity? Is it any football is at least it's football, or are we going to say, my God, this was dreck? Is
it like the good pizza is like good sex anecdote? Like it doesn't matter. I don't even know. Mike, I'm terrible at idioms and phrases and sayings. So is bad football still better than no football?
No football.
I would say yes.
Yes.
Just like bad pizza is better than no pizza.
Yes.
But like, would I have stayed up late to watch the end of the Steelers Browns game if I wasn't a Steelers fan? I'm not sure. After that play in the first half where the players were bobbling the ball around and it was just Gunnar Olszewski got like hit, got a concussion. He's out now. What Mike was that? I don't know.
The bottom line is what Mike Tomlin said. And I love Mike Tomlin. I mean, he is just phenomenal.
Same.
And he said, I'll never apologize for a win. It was an ugly win, but you don't apologize for a win at that level. You take the win and you move on. And that's what you do. Quote. So, as far as those teams, as I mentioned, Steelers go to Vegas. and the Cleveland Browns are home to the Tennessee Titans. So we will see where that goes. We have much more NFL. We have the Sunday games to talk about as well, and a monster college football weekend coming up next.
We have Dan Wetzel here joining us from Yahoo Sports. He's also the co-host of the College Football Enquirer Podcast, which I am a fan of. I listen to it every week. This week, the big topic, Mike, I can't say I saw it coming, that the game of week 3 would be Colorado State.
Yeah.
But I want to know what Dan thought about this huge matchup at 10 o'clock at Colorado, rivalry game, ended up being one of the most bananas college football games of week 3.
It was everything. I don't know if you've seen the ratings on this, but it was the most watched game of the week. 9.3 million people watched, which is a huge number for college football. Usually only about 6 or 7 regular season games get over 10 million viewers in college football. And the peak is like Ohio State, Michigan last year got 17 million. So 9.7 million is a top 10, top 8 rating for the whole year. This is between a team that went 1-11 last year and has no tradition and a Mountain West team. Okay, that is Deion Sanders effect. He's got The Rock in the pregame speech and his mom. He's got Lil Wayne walking him out. He's got celebrities everywhere. And then it is this wild game, a dirty game, intense game. Shedeur Sanders is so exciting. They had more people watching. Over 7 million people were watching at the end of the game at 2 a.m. Eastern time than any other game played the whole day by any other team. Colorado is the biggest thing to hit college football in years. We've never seen a program in 3 games command this much attention, viewership, controversy, excitement, whatever. It is an incredible situation, and their games are really fun to watch so far.
And as we're going to get into that because they take on Oregon and USC back to back. They're already, I think, like 21 or 24-point dogs in this game. But this is all prime time, right? I mean, this is Deion. He is electrifying as he was on the field. He's this way, behind the scenes. Well, I guess he's never really behind the scenes. He's always front and center. And I think a lot of people don't like him, Dan, because of the way he does it with as much bravado. I'm bringing my own luggage and it's Louis and just people aren't used to that. He doesn't give you the normal coach speak. But the way I look at it is as the only people that matter are the people in that locker room that buy into what he's selling and put it into practical application on the field for it to be successful.
Absolutely. Some people love him. Some people don't. You like this, Mike, or maybe not. This is the new Notre Dame. This is the old school Notre Dame. We love them or we hate them. We're going to do it our way. Deal with us. This is Coach Prime's done it in 3 weeks. If there's 7-8 million people watching in the middle of the night to see whether they win or lose, this is the biggest thing going. And he's just getting started. They're 3 games in. And again, we'll get to the 3 touchdown underdog, but as they should be. They just lost Travis Hunter for the next 3-4 games. That's losing 2 starters. That's not just one guy. You lose your second or third best receiver and your best cover man. So you have all of this. I want to see what happens in the years to come. I'll give you a story. The number 1 junior recruit in America, class of 2020, high school junior, is a quarterback from Belleville, Michigan, outside of Detroit, named Bryce Underwood. Bryce Underwood has been being recruited by everyone for years. He's got Michigan, LSU, and Alabama as kind of his favorites at this point. Colorado beats TCU on Memorial Day weekend, and 3 days later, Deion Sanders calls Bryce Underwood, and Bryce Underwood and his father are at the Colorado State game. He is involved with any recruit he wants in America, and that doesn't even count what he's going to do in the transfer portal this offseason. I would expect flips of 5-star recruits. He had this weekend. Again, this is the 3rd game. He had recruits who are committed to Alabama, Tennessee, and Oregon all on that sideline, plus all these other kids. He is going to clean up. There is no way that kids aren't looking and parents aren't looking and saying, that looks like the most fun thing I've ever seen. I like his attitude. I like his old school coaching ways. I like the whole bit. He's on 60 Minutes on Sunday. I mean, he is a whole nother level of recruiting and all this. what he's going to do this year is already been amazing. This is one of the worst. They weren't just 1-11 last year. Their 11 losses were by 32.5 points a game on average. They got crushed in every single game other than the easiest game they had all season. He's turned the entire program around and getting going. What happens when he starts adding depth, when he's not just grabbing 50 kids out of the transfer portal, but it's selecting 20? What is when these recruits all start turning and saying, hey, I want to be part of this Coach Prime show? Enormous potential going forward for this. Again, this is the biggest show since the old Pete Carroll, Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart USC teams, but it's quicker, and because of social media and everything, I think it's even bigger. Not as big successfully, but bigger in terms of the hype.
Yeah, and Deion's already a star. He's already a celebrity that people know. He has name recognition. He has fame. He has all of those things. You mentioned they were 1-11 last year. Colorado State was 3-9 last year. So between these two teams, not even bowl eligible, and yet pulled an enormous rating. And I know that they're playing their toughest opponents coming up. They have all this conference play. The Pac-12 is stacked this year, but I'm at the point now where I don't think it matters if they get blown out the next 2 games in a row and end up finishing the season with like a decent but not amazing record. I don't know if it matters because of all of the reasons you just said. This is, if he wants to stay there and build up this program and win a national championship, I am no longer going to doubt the methods and ways in which he can do that.
Yeah, these next few weeks are going to be, they don't have a pass rush, right? You can see that against Colorado State. Well, what happens when it's Caleb Williams, Bo Nix this weekend, Caleb Williams the next, sitting back there? They don't, it still takes time, as good as they've been. But I agree. I think the attention is there and the momentum is there. I was one of the people that were like a lot, hey, he's going to go to Colorado. If he's successful, he's going to jump back to the SEC. He's going to jump to the Big Ten or something, like probably the SEC, or maybe ACC or the right job. Someone's going to pay him. He's bigger than any program. He doesn't need to be at Alabama to recruit. He doesn't need to be at LSU or Florida State to recruit. He doesn't even recruit like other guys. He's not flying around on Friday night, standing on the side of some high school football field somewhere. He's just like, you come to me. I'm Coach Prime. And they're all coming. Like the TV rating this weekend, if they got 9 million people to watch Colorado State, this thing's at 3:30 against Oregon. It's going to go way over 10 million. And even if they win or lose, but if it's even close, USC the following week could be the biggest game of the entire year. This is absolutely incredible. He's 3 games into his thing, and he's just captured America's imagination. I don't think he ever has to leave Colorado. I don't know if he will or won't. Deion Sanders could do whatever Deion Sanders wants, but I don't think it's out of the question in a couple of years as he builds up, gets some depth, fills some gaps. Why isn't this a national championship contender in Boulder, Colorado?
And along those lines, he said he doesn't want to coach in the NFL. Now, who knows if he means that or not, but it seems this style is more for the 18 to 22-year-old. And he said, how am I going to motivate guys making that much money and stuff? So we'll leave that for another day. Let's let him do what he's doing now. And think about it. We have 6 ranked games, including them in Oregon, and also Florida State and Clemson playing as well. But back to back, you got that 3:30 game, and then Notre Dame is at 7:30. I mean, it is what a day of college football. Let me ask you though, Dan, an overall question about college football that Deion brought up, but this is a broad question. Deion said it's going to be harder for 18-year-olds to get scholarships, 20-25 scholarship players on these Power 5 teams, because teams are going to start using the portal more. You still only have 85 scholarships. They haven't upped that. If you're bringing in, and I don't mean like the 86 portal guys he got brought in, but if teams start bringing in more 2nd, 3rd, 4th year guys who already have college experience, who are ready to play right away, if they do that more, that's less space for the 18-year-old 4 and 5 stars, 3 stars, whatever, coming out of high school. Do you buy into that?
It's 100%. It's a numbers game. They're also still dealing with the 60-year COVID. The kids have got a 60-year because of COVID. So there's a little bit of a log jam on this. But yeah, if you're any top program, and it's not just Colorado, you see it with Michigan. Michigan got really good when the transfer portal opened up. because Jim Harbaugh, his theory is get old and stay old. And when you're recruiting 21-year-olds, kids that have done well at whatever school, it could be mid-pack of a Power 5, it could be a group of 5 program, it could be whatever. It's different than recruiting 17-year-olds. 17-year-olds want to be close to mom and dad, or they want to connect with their coach, or they're wowed by the stadium or the fight song or the colors or all that stuff. When you're all of a sudden looking at a 21-year-old, it's how do I get to the league? How do I, what kind of grad program do you have? It's a different recruitment. People are different at 17 and 21. They're looking at the world differently. And so certain programs are having a boon off of this, and Michigan being one. Colorado's obviously going to grab a lot of guys. But if you're sitting there saying, look, we need to bring in 25, 30 kids this year, which generally, you have some attrition. Most recruiting classes are about 25 players, even though you only have 85 scholarships. You would say you want to bring in 30 kids. Now, more kids are leaving because they can't make it. You made a wrong call. But if you're bringing in 25, why would you just say, I'm going to bring in 15 high school kids that I think are going to play or develop or get there, or local kids that want to be part of my program, and then I'm going to pick off 10 more that I think are going to work. And you see programs spending as much time scouting other teams, scouting the Mid-American Conference, scouting the Sun Belt, scouting Division II. Florida State's one of their top linemen came from the University of Albany. I'm sorry, University of Albany. You're going that route. So there's a backlog down. And so 5 stars, sure, they're going to get their spots. 4 stars, they're going to get their spots.
Right.
3 and 2 stars are going to have to prove it. And there's just going to be less spots. Some are going to have to go D2. Some are going to have to go lower than they would have thought. But show me what you got, and you also have a chance to, in a couple years, to be playing at the highest level.
So in the context of NIL, and you're mentioning that like certain programs are doing really well with it, but certainly certain programs are also losing the NIL portal battles. Maybe Alabama fits somewhere in there. How much do you attribute their struggles this year to changes in the coaching staff versus Saban not being able to adapt to other programs now being able to attract those recruits, versus maybe something else entirely?
They have plenty of talent at Alabama. We're not going to shed too many tears for Crimson Tide. They have more. There's different metrics on this, but they actually may by like certain recruiting metrics, they have the most talented team.
They're like the top 5 talent composite team
ever. Right.
Yeah. Them and Texas A&M, but that's another story.
Their problem is they don't have a quarterback.
Right.
And he did try to solve that. He brought in Tyler Buckner from Notre Dame, which was sort of the flare, like the call is coming from inside the building. This is a problem because Tyler Buckner wasn't exactly setting the world. Notre Dame had replaced Tyler Buckner with Sam Hartman. So they don't have a quarterback, but they don't. I think the coaching is an issue. I think he had a run of Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Mac Jones, Bryce Young. That's a pretty epic run of 4 quarterbacks. That's 1/8 of the starting quarterbacks in the NFL right now. And those guys solve a lot of problems, right? They win you games. He doesn't have that right now. Neither does Clemson. They had Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. They made up for a lot of little mistakes, and they don't have that kind of quarterback. One of the things the transfer portal has done is increase the parity in this sport, because these quarterbacks, there's more very good quarterbacks than ever before. These kids are trained at a young age. They have quarterback specialists. They play 7-on-7. There's more skilled quarterbacks. And rather than sit on a bench somewhere, they will go find a place to play. The Pac-12 has 8 ranked teams this year. Of their 12 schools in the Pac-12, 10 of them are starting transfers. Everybody's a transfer except Dante Moore. Actually, I don't even know what Arizona State now, because Jaden Rashada might have gotten hurt. I think he's out or hurt.
Drew Pine played, and
Drew Pine's a transfer. Okay, whatever's happening there, I don't think anyone's too worried about.
Good. No, they lost to Fresno State like 29-0. I think.
Yeah, they got crushed. Yeah, Dante Moore is the only traditional player. He's a true freshman.
And he's a freshman.
UCLA.
Yeah,
he's a true freshman. Everybody else is a transfer. Caleb Williams, Penix, just the whole crew. Bo Nix, everybody's a transfer. So these guys are finding their right spots. And again, kind of what I said earlier, you're not 17 anymore. You're saying, hey, where's a good fit for me? And boom, there is way more. I thought transfer portal would be a net neutral. The coaches screamed it would be the worst thing to ever happen to this sport. It's turning out to be one of the best things that's ever happened to the sport. The SEC cannot just hold all these recruits. These kids are going everywhere, and there's more parity in college football this season than in a long, long time. Everything that was predicted it would be bad has turned out to good. Coaches have a horrible record of screaming the sky is falling. This is one of their worst calls right now, because this season is really exciting because players are all over the place.
So we have 6 ranked: Oregon, Colorado, UCLA, Utah, Mississippi, Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Iowa, Penn State, and the battle for supremacy in the Pac-12 of 2, Oregon State against Washington State.
The Tupac.
There you go. The Tupac
yes. Bowl. Yeah, Tupac Bowl.
Who's going to be top of the Tupac? So which of those games, I know where Jess and I are going to lean, being Notre Dame grads, but which of those games?
We'll be at the game, Mike.
Yes, we will. Do you see as the big game and a potential upset game of the ranks?
There's no question Ohio State Notre Dame is the game of the weekend. And it's kind of amazing how much attention Deion Sanders, the Pac-12's rise, and the SEC struggles have taken away. Like, this was a game you circled years in advance. This is Ohio State at Notre Dame, and it is an amazing game. All right. Sam Hartman, to me, has changed the dynamic for Notre Dame. They have Mike, you or both of you would be good examples. Well, we were trying on our podcast, we were trying to figure out who's the best Notre Dame quarterback since Sam Hartman. And you can make a case it was Montana. Okay. Now it's only a few games in, but we'll see.
Right.
They haven't had a guy like this. So now you have this unbelievable opportunity for Marcus Freeman, where it's not, I have to spring an upset over Ohio State, which generally speaking is going to be more talented than Notre Dame and may still be. But boy, that gap is a lot closer. And the chances of winning that game are a lot better for Notre Dame than I would have predicted before Sam Hartman got off this start and reminded us how good he is. If he's as good as he has looked, they're going to have the advantage at the most important position on the field, besides being at home and all that. And if Marcus Freeman could pull this win off, it sets him up as, oh, this is going to be the Notre Dame coach for a long time. This guy is going to be established with a huge, huge win. He rebounded last year. He recruits well. He handles himself well. Obviously, I think everybody likes Marcus. He's a people person, but this could really set him up going forward in terms of recruiting and momentum of the program and the whole thing. This is an incredible opportunity. And at the same time, Ryan Day wins virtually every single game he plays, except against Michigan. But because he's losing to Michigan, there's a segment of Ohio State fans that are not happy with him. And losing to Notre Dame, even at Notre Dame, even against this great quarterback, would not go over well. So there is enormous pressure on this game for both programs, or opportunity or pressure, however you want to look at it, beyond just, hey, it's number 6 playing number 9. You need to win this thing to maybe get in a playoff. I think it's going to be an unbelievable scene, as you guys know better than I. South Bend is always great. Night, the Dome, these two big brands. This is one of the best games of the year.
His name is Dan Wetzel. You can follow him on Twitter at Dan Wetzel. We have a minute or so left with you. Can you give us any good predictions for this weekend? Like any upset picks? Like you said, there's 6 ranked teams playing against each other. I think the first time that's happened in over a decade. Also off the top of my head, I don't know. Jimmy Clausen was pretty good. Brady Quinn was pretty good. I don't know if you put them ahead of Sam Hartman, but I guess we'll see. It's been 4 games.
It's quite an argument. I'll put it that way. You go, wait a minute, it can't be Montana, but then you're like, okay, we'll see.
Do you like any of the other games though for an upset?
I'm fascinated about Ole Miss at Alabama.
Yeah.
And look, if you look at what the teams have done, Ole Miss should be favored. Okay, I mean, like if you just look at what's been done, they beat a really good Tulane team at Tulane. They handled Georgia Tech. They're playing well. They've got their quarterback position is fine. The offense is rolling, the whole thing. Alabama has looked horrible against South Florida and got beat by double digits at home by Texas. Obviously it's Alabama. Obviously the numbers are going to go to Alabama. it's terrifying as to bet against Alabama at home. But you look at it and go, well, why isn't Ole Miss the better team here? So if you can ignore the laundry, it's pretty interesting. Lane Kiffin is poking the bear. He is trolling Nick Saban. He's doing everything in. So that game will be very fascinating. I also want to see what Dante Moore and UCLA can do at Utah. I think that's a really interesting potential game there too.
Oh, Dan, we really appreciate your time. Great info, great stuff. Let's all enjoy the Saturday games.
Anytime. Have me on anytime. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks,
Thank
Dan.
you so much.
All right, Jess, great info out of Dan. And this Notre Dame Ohio State game, I mean, again, backed up from the Oregon Colorado game, then into Notre Dame Ohio State with all the other ranked sprinkled in around it, is a great time for college football. But we both know where the two of us are going to be really focusing. And Notre Dame, I think, does have a great opportunity here. It's kind of flipped from last year. Mm-hmm. Ohio State had an established quarterback who was an excellent quarterback. And Notre Dame, started Tyler Buckner. Then he goes down and you have a backup in there. This time around, we have the established quarterback, and Ohio State has a kid in Kyle McCord who's a starter, but hasn't had a lot of playing time and has got a few games under his belt. But they come in with the more experienced quarterback. The biggest number for me in this matchup is the number 0. And that's the number of interceptions Sam Hartman has thrown. 13 touchdowns is great, but no interceptions. Against teams like this, and we talked about the big three, Ohio State, USC, Clemson, that we're playing, you can't turn the ball over, and that's something Sam has not done yet.
Yeah, I'm excited, but I am nervous. I think having an advantage at the quarterback position, guess what? That's where you want the advantage. That's the best position to have the better player at. And like you said, Tyler Buckner versus CJ Stroud last year in the opener, no question CJ Stroud's more talented. But then when you look at kind of the other position group breakdowns, Ohio State's got a great wide receiver room. Notre Dame's got really good corners. Like we saw some of their players in their secondary come alive last weekend against Central Michigan. By the way, Mike, I want to mention the Central Michigan Notre Dame game was one of the worst officiated college football games I've ever watched in my entire life. They ruled a play, went to the booth, changed it, and then went to the booth and changed it again. Is there no double jeopardy in college football? It was bizarre.
I guess not.
It was terrible. But I will say Notre Dame, certain things concern me in the Central Michigan game and the NC State game. The offensive line needs to play perfectly against Ohio State. You can't let, the other team's run game gash you as many times when you're in one of these games. So if they play a really good game, I think it's going to be super close. And like you said, having Sam Hartman makes all the difference in the world, but it's going to be a tough one no matter what. And then Notre Dame has to go and play Duke the next weekend, who's going to be a top 15 team. They're probably going to get game day in Durham for the first time.
That game just got moved to 7:30. That's a primetime game as well now, I think, on ABC, the Duke game. But you're right. Central Michigan gashed Notre Dame right up the middle in the running game. I mean, that was worrisome. North Carolina State got pressure on Sam Hartman. He got knocked around a little bit. And one thing Ohio State, while they have Marvin Harrison Jr., the best wide receiver in the land on one side, they always have an excellent D-line and rushers. You're talking about a couple of edge rushers they have who are going to be NFLers, and our two tackles, Joe Alt will be a high first rounder, and Blake Fisher will play in the league. You got 4 NFLers playing against one another. You got an excellent corner that we have in Benjamin Morrison, Cam Hart on the other side, and a couple. We're pretty cornerback deep. So how do they defense Marvin Harrison Jr. and the other receivers, which is going to be a big question. And one of the big ones, I think, for me, Jess, is we got to get some pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah.
We have 6 sacks this year, but need more pressure. Pressure has come from blitzes at times. So going to have to hurry up Kyle McCord as a quarterback and not give him time back there to pat the ball. And see where he's going to go.
The Notre Dame pass rush and the front 7 on the defense definitely is a position group that's missing an Isaiah Foskey or an edge rusher guy this year. But Kyle McCord is going to be playing, his first game in this kind of road environment and road atmosphere. And Notre Dame will have to take advantage of that and make life difficult for him in the pocket and make him uncomfortable. That's my key to the game, Mike. Make him super uncomfortable.
Agreed. Let him hit the ground a few times and feel that Notre Dame turf and see what happens. So let's go full circle all the way when we started with Dan on this, and not back to Colorado so much as to the situation. Listen, the Colorado State defensive back, Henry Blackburn, it was a late bad hit on Travis Hunter. No doubt about it. It did get flagged. It should have got flagged. It was a bad hit. And Colorado State had 18 penalties, I think, for 172 yards. Some of them unnecessary roughness. They were line step in this game. Some cheap shots, some late hits. Their best player got tossed in overtime for burying Shedeur Sanders in the pocket after he just got a penalty before that as well. But for people to give Henry Blackburn and his family death threats, I mean, is just the epitome of sickness of these fans out here. I mean, and even Travis Hunter has said, gang, this is a game. I mean, please, what are we doing here? I'm paraphrasing, but I mean, it is. And it was, listen, he was injured. He's going to miss a few weeks. No doubt about that. And there's no rule that says if it was a penalty like it was, that player has to miss as many weeks. There's no rule like that. So Henry Blackburn is not missing any time because of it. And we know Travis Hunter is going to be out, and that's going to hurt Colorado. But, we see it when kickers miss a ball in college or something, that death threats. I mean, it's just ridiculous what these people do.
I agree. It is so absurd. And the types of people that go and make physical threats of violence to college players ruin it for everyone else, because now it's like, you can't just talk about like, dirty play. You have to be like dirty play. And also, don't do this. Like, never do this. We saw videos of Alabama fans last week saying the most horrible slurs and racist commentary at Texas players. And it's like, guys, don't, like, what are you doing? Why are you ruining the sport? This should not be like this. And I understand, like, for this Colorado team, it's a rivalry game. You're going to play hard. It was a really close game, but I couldn't agree with you more. Don't do the dirty hit, yes, but also do not interact with college football players if you are a fan, ever. Just don't do it. Say good game if you walk past one on your way to class. Don't send people weird messages and death threats. Like,
just absolutely awful. So great weekend college football coming up. NFL is always going to be there. Let's go outside the world of football, Jess, and talk about something that hasn't happened in 15 races, and I am here for it. That's next. All right, I'm right at 43:08, so we got just a little under 7 minutes.
Oh, yeah, perfect. I have to hop off like right after that, so good timing.
Yeah, okay. All right, we'll get going right away then.
Cool.
Here we go in 3, 2. All right, Jess, obviously there's always a lot of football to talk about. It's the most important sport out there. And I remember always getting into a conversation with Jay Billis, who would always be mad at us because we'd never start talking about college basketball until like Christmas time or after February. Christmas, because, or even in the new year, because it was football time. And even though college basketball had started, but all the other sports become secondary, but there still are other sports down there. Baseball is getting close to the end of the regular season and postseason. We'll start talking about that more as well. But Formula One is going into the latter part of their season, and it finally happened, Jess. And I believe I got the number right. It had been 15 straight races that Red Bull had won. And normally when you say Red Bull, you're saying Max Verstappen, who's usually winning. But this time, not only did they not win in Singapore, they didn't even hit the podium. Mm-hmm. So for those that like a little more balance, and this at this point is really just a little more balance, I think it was a good day for F1.
Yeah, well, the Red Bulls were off the entire weekend. Yeah. Neither of them were running the pace that they normally are. And I think it showed how much parity there is with the rest of the pack, that you had the McLaren, the Ferrari, and the Mercedes all at the top of the pack fighting for those podium spots. It was really exciting. It kind of gave a glimpse at like what the season could have been like had Red Bull not run away with it and won all of those races. They won every single race this season, Sergio Perez or Max Verstappen. In this one, Verstappen came in 5th, Perez came in 8th. But Mike, it was so nice to hear a different national anthem after the race for the first time, listening to the Spanish national anthem and not the Dutch national anthem. Like I was like, wow, what an amazing, it was a great race. There were safety cars. There was like all sorts of like weird, funky stuff going on. And I had such low expectations because Singapore is a street circuit and it's hard to overtake on street circuits, but and it ended up being probably one of the better races of this season. I'm sure it's going to be hard to top. The saddest part of the race was George Russell flipping the wall in the final lap. He was like running in third place, had a really good race, clipped the wall out. It was devastating for him. He was a DNF on the final lap, and Lewis Hamilton got the third podium spot behind Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris. But yeah, it was really fun. And now Formula One's heading to Japan next weekend. Verstappen's still going to lock it up. Like he's going to lock it up in the next couple of races. I'm sure they will rebound. I don't think they're going to continue to have these issues for the rest of the year, but it was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, my gosh, he only scored 10 points in this race. What the hell's wrong with him? I mean, give me a break. I mean, so is there anything to this is the start of something where Red Bull will get challenged more, or are we looking at more at just a Red Bull having an off weekend?
It's impossible to say for sure, but I don't think Red Bull is concerned that this is any sort of like issue that they're going to have consistently. They've described it as an issue with the ride height. You know, on a street circuit, you have to adjust the ride height different to what you would on a more normal racetrack. And they were not able to set up the car the way that they needed to on the first day of the weekend. And so the entire weekend was off, and they think they're going to be right back at the top of the pack in Japan next weekend. So I wouldn't really necessarily look forward to seeing more Carlos Sainz podiums, but I think it is on the flip side of that, like Ferrari had a really great race. Like Leclerc, I think his strategy got sacrificed a little bit for his teammate, but they didn't screw anything up. Like Carlos finished on pole and he won the race. That never happens for Ferrari. Something bad always happens. So you can look at it as like these other three teams are doing really, really well. And like they will certainly be challenging the Red Bulls in the future, but I still think the rest of the season, I don't expect Red Bull to be this far behind.
At least we just it happened to be Ferrari, but we were just, I know I was happy to see somebody other than Red Bull. And then, like I said, not even on the podium at all. So that was F1, as you said, they go on to Japan. But again, you know, it's football season and you're going to be in town this weekend, right? For the Notre Dame game.
I am. I can't wait. Do you have a green shirt? Are you wearing green this weekend?
I have plenty of green shirts. Yes. Okay. The Notre Dame, for those that may not know, some may not care, Notre Dame will be wearing green uniforms. And if you don't care, tough. We're going to talk about it anyway. I love my brother, Bob. My brother, Bob, was an All-American here back in the 70s. He texted me, I think like 2 days ago, and he's like, hey, you have any tickets for the game? I'm thinking of coming out. I'm like, are you serious? I said, do you understand the gravity of this game? And yeah. Oh, you know what? Let me open this drawer. I got a couple.
Yeah, just have some leftovers. Around. Yeah, right. It hasn't been something that like, you know, people have been planning out for a few months now because it's, you know, the biggest home game of the season. But
this is what he does because he's into more the news radio now. He's not into the sports radio anymore. Been doing that for close to a couple of decades. So I think he's lost sight of, yeah, you kind of got to have your business taken care of before you come out here, which obviously, as we end this thing, leads me to you're going to be out here. You're going to be in the same neck of the woods as me. What are we eating?
Are you tailgating at all?
Well, I'm wondering where you're tailgating because you'll probably make something for that tailgate, in which I'm going to go to that tailgate.
Okay, I see what you mean.
See where I'm working here?
I am tailgating. I will text you my tailgate location. You can ride your golf cart over to it, and I'll give you a little piece of whatever I bake Friday night.
Are you going to really give me the right location, or is this going to be like you hand out the wrong phone number?
I'll give you the poll number. You can come find me, Mike.
Okay. All right. I look forward to that very much. Thank you.
See you there.